Patriots do with AB. Why I have no problem with what KD said about his former teams or the league. And I'll tell you why Odell wearing 6 figures on his wrist during a game, again, is actually a big deal. First Take right now.
Welcome back to First Take. In case you're just joining us, Antonio Brown has been accused of sexual assault by his former trainer, Brittany Taylor. Taylor accused Brown of 3 incidents of sexual assault in 2017 and 2018, including an alleged rape, according to the civil suit filed in the Southern District of Florida. Brown's attorney said the wide receiver denies all allegations and said the two had a consensual personal relationship. The Patriots said they take those allegations very seriously. Under no circumstances does this organization condone sexual violence or assault. The NFL will be investigating the matter, according to the Patriots. Brown is expected to practice today with the Pats. On that note, we now welcome in Dominique Foxworth. Ryan Clark still here with us. And I want to mention you were president of the NFLPA, and you were obviously on the executive board. So thrilled to have your take on all of this, guys. But Stephen A., I want to start with you. What do you think New England should do with Brown now?
I think they should wait to see what the commissioner decides, because if you're an individual team, then obviously you're innocent until proven guilty, and that's the approach that you have to take. It's the league which has the tool of the commissioner's exempt list to utilize to decide, regardless of your guilt or innocence, this is how the league has been affected by these allegations, and because of that, we're going to keep you out of the league. As an individual team, your obligation is to your team, and you want to exercise guilt before until proven guilty, and I think that's the safe way for the Patriots to go.
So if the Patriots set him, that would let everybody off the hook. But I think they won't, because that is not the Patriots
I apologize
way.
if the Patriots did what?
If they set him out, if they put him on the bench, that would let everybody off the hook. But I doubt that's what they do. And I think from the union perspective, what you brought up, Brian and I both were very involved. The union's responsibility is not necessarily to protect Antonio Brown in this case, but it's to protect the precedent. So they need to make sure that the process is followed. So while it's very uncomfortable for DeMaurice Smith and many of the players who lead the union in situations like this, when someone has allegations this serious, but they have to protect him in this situation, not because it's Antonio Brown, but because the next guy who's going to get accused of something, no matter what he's accused of, you need to uphold innocent until proven guilty as much as you possibly can, because that's something that we frankly have struggled with in the history of the relationship with the league and the players. And Ryan knows this quite well, because when we were going through CBA negotiations, there was one team that was steadfast about not signing the CBA agreement, and it was because of commissioner discipline, and that team was Ryan Clark's team, the Steelers.
Yeah, and so the hard thing here is when we look at it from the outside, anything dealing with sexual assault, with rape, you think to yourself, we want to act very fast because we want the NFL to be the moral high ground that shows people that these things can't go on. But the NFLPA has to make sure that that's not the way it happens, that the process is fair, that the process is handled in a way to where they get all the facts before they make decisions. And so in that, we can't ask the New England Patriots to do that either. You can't say, New England Patriots, we want you to set a precedent by sitting Antonio Brown until all the facts are clear, because that's just not how it works. And so when you look at Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, who has said in a statement, if you heard Mike Reese this morning, that there is no gray area when it comes to acts of domestic violence, when it comes to acts of sexual assault, he doesn't have all of the facts.
He's told me that personally. That's the one thing he doesn't move on. He'll tolerate anything but that.
Right, exactly. So, but he doesn't have all the facts. So if you do sit Antonio Brown, you are almost giving him a guilty verdict. You are almost saying, you know what, you're guilty until proven innocent, and that's just not the way this process works or the way the NFLPA will allow it to work.
When this subject first came up and I first learned about it, I thought I was going to say this exact thing. And I am always in these cases saying everyone is in a rush to judgment. Let's wait for the facts to come out. The facts, as I understand them so far, are as follows. He did not warn the Patriots that this was an ongoing situation when he joined the team. That would be, if I were the Patriots, strike 1 and maybe 2 and maybe 3. But when I read, and I understand, we're not a jury, we have not been given instructions by a judge, We don't know all the facts or how they may be contextualized. There's a text message purportedly sent by Antonio Brown, which is now circulated. People can see this, where he claims to have done something while she was sleeping. Whatever else he denies, or even if the argument is made, well, I was just saying that to
there's no consent there.
Right, it's impossible to give consent. Even if you try to contextualize it in a relationship where that was an ongoing understanding, that's a long way to go. It looks really bad. And I'm not saying this is the proper way to proceed, because there is a presumption of innocence, even if that standard is lower in a civil suit. But were I running the Patriots? Just beat the Steelers by 1 million points week 1 without Antonio Brown, just won a Super Bowl. Right. And I'm not even saying, well, you would bend your ethics in order to. I'm being realistic. Were I the Patriots, I probably would move on from Antonio Brown right now.
Let me come to Dominique and Ryan with this question. I get it, because I feel where everybody's coming from. But I must ask you, in light of the precedent that has been established by the commissioner and the league office as it pertains to the commissioner's exempt list, people that have been put on there, the Adrian Petersons, the Kareem Hunts of the world, although, Greg Hardy's, all these folks were indicted, stuff like that.
Right.
And that's not the case here. Because of that precedent, do y'all see any way where the commissioner could actually avoid putting him on the commissioner's list?
He's had some good opinions on this, so I'll let you go first, D.
No, I mean, I think it goes back to the commissioner's exempt list is they try to present it as if it is not a punishment.
Right.
It is a punishment. The fact that you still get paid is one thing. So this is still putting out a guilty verdict before it's proven. So the commissioner's exempt list, just because you're getting paid, doesn't mean that there's not a price to be paid.
What is the purpose of the exempt list?
The purpose of the exempt list is to protect the image of the league. That's the purpose.
But
frankly,
wouldn't this be fall into that category?
If I were the commissioner, it's something that I may consider. But I'm just saying that from a union standpoint, and everything changes with personnel. And we can go back to Adam Pac-Man Jones. That was an important, pivotal moment for the players, because the players were very upset with all the trouble he was getting in because they believed that it reflected poorly on us. And that was the first time where the players stepped up.
But I don't want to run away from the subject.
Right.
What I'm asking y'all is, as guys that obviously were union members and officers within the union, I'm saying, based on what we're seeing right now, do you see the commissioner having any choice?
I see him having a choice,
okay.
But I also see why he would lean to doing something like this. Max, the things you brought up and mentioned, I agree with those things. And I also agree from my standpoint, if I was the New England Patriots, I would want to distance myself from this. I would also know that I don't need him. Right, but we don't get to make these decisions. And if you're the commissioner, I know Dominique mentioned that if the New England Patriots stepped up and sat him, it would help a lot of people. From the commissioner's standpoint, if he could use the commissioner's exempt list to be done with this for the time being, it definitely helps. And I know these are conversations that are being had.
Right.
There's also going to be some pushback, and some way the NFLPA has to represent Antonio Brown in that as well.
I understand that position. If I were the commissioner, I would want to do that. But the fact of the matter is, the reason why I brought up Adam Pac-Man Jones, it was because we as the players looked at that particular person.
That was something we wanted.
Yeah, and we allowed the fact that it was that person who had that history change the way that we treated it, and we encouraged the commissioner to take disciplinary action before conviction was held. And that was a precedent that they needed to set forth all the actions going forward where they took these steps forward. So I bring this up now because Antonio Brown's name and his reputation is influencing the way that we look at this, and it should not. It should not influence the way that we look at this.
It went by way of bringing up Pac-Man Jones. Are you saying that the union made a mistake because that allowed the precedent to be set?
Yeah,
so whatever the circumstances are heading in, it is the union's job automatically to fight to the extent that they can against this so that precedent isn't reinforced.
And I mean, Gene Upshaw was the executive director then, and it was not Gene's doing. Gene stood strong in saying that we should not do that. And several players, a group of which I was a part of, were very upset with the way that the league was looking and the way the players were being perceived. And so we kind of stepped out there and were like, yeah, go ahead and do what you got to do. But prior to that, you think back to Ray Lewis, nothing happened to Ray Lewis when all that stuff was happening down in Miami until after the decisions were made, and then finally the penalty was very small. So I think this is important to remember. And while we all have opinions about Antonio Brown, we have to understand that we should treat him the same way we would treat
My position is not that of an opinion. I'm just saying that based on the recent history involving the commissioner's exempt list, I would be shocked if he's not on it in 48 hours.
I guess this would be my question.
That's all I'm
more
saying.
so on a personal level, distancing yourself from the PA. The fact of what Max was saying in light of the act taking place while she was asleep, in light of in the civil suit, him saying, I felt like a rapist. Don't you feel like that's reflecting poorly?
No,
that
it
the NFL
definitely...
and the Patriots, and based on just everything that's transpired over this past year with him.
But see, I think that's the point Dominique is making as well.
You can't
we have to take away the things that have transpired outside of this situation because they aren't of this magnitude.
That's right.
They aren't
totally different.
They aren't
Separate
involving a young lady like that. This is just that those things is him being a bad teammate.
Is this situation enough to reflect poorly on the NFL in your opinion?
Oh yeah, I think everything that the players do reflects on the NFL positively and negatively. And I understand the situation. Like I mentioned, if I were the commissioner, I would try to do that, and I would not be upset in that situation. But the point that I'm bringing up is that there will be another incident where something else comes up. A player gets accused of shoplifting. Something like that will come up, and then the precedent will be set that we stood idly by and allowed them to, without evidence.
The PA has to fight this.
Well, what about forgive me, I don't mean to mansplain this, as they say, right? But this was also the point I was making earlier. What about simply what he admitted or what he claimed he did in a text message? Once you send a text message, if the other party claims to wants to make that public, you have no right to privacy, as far as I understand it, right? So if she makes that public, just the fact that he wrote what he did in that text message, wouldn't that rise to the level of being on the commissioner's exempt list?
The commissioner exempt list is something that he decides, right? It's not necessarily, and so it speaks to what Dominique. It speaks to Dominique's point of like, there's no set rules. It doesn't say if you do this, then I can put you on the commissioner exempt list. And so there is all types of gray area and that you have to figure out in there. And so yes, if he makes the decision that is enough, the commissioner could move forward with that. But what we're saying is, as a PA, we would also have to try to support him in the process of being able to play.
Just a nugget of information I wanted to give y'all, because I got a lawyer that said that explained something to me about the $75,000 amount that she was suing for. He said, quote, is the minimal amount she had to plead to get into federal court based on diversity jurisdiction. Two parties from different states. Essentially, the 75K is a procedural matter that triggered the federal court's diversity jurisdiction, i.e. a plaintiff and defendant who live in different states. The claim will probably end up being for over $1 million. The reason why they bring that up, and the reason why I'm bringing it up to y'all, is obviously the fact that that is the goal, that she has bigger plans. Don't you think that may factor into the league's thinking in terms of addressing this issue?
And could become criminal. Yeah.
Don't you think the fact that they can foreshadow that?
I believe they can, but a lot of what we deal with is not foreshadowing. We want to deal in fact. And when these conversations happen about Antonio Brown, it'll be about the facts that we have, the things that we know.
According to the Players Association, I'm saying that's not always, if I'm correct, that's